The frozen discovery. The Antarctic wind screamed across the ice shelf with a fury that could strip paint from metal. Temperature gauges read minus 45 degrees C, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Through the swirling white chaos, massive floodlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a scene that would change humanity's understanding of the universe forever. Marcus Chun stood at the edge of the excavation pit, his thermal suit doing little against the biting cold that seemed to seep into his very bones. He was an engineer by trade, specialized in salvage operations and complex mechanical systems. When the government contract came through for an emergency Arctic recovery mission, he had expected to repair drilling equipment or fix frozen generators. What he found instead defied every expectation he had ever held about his place in the cosmos. The object emerging from the ice was enormous, easily the size of 3 commercial aircraft placed end to end. Its surface was unlike anything found on Earth. A crystalline metallic substance that seemed to shift colors in the artificial light. Blues merged into purples, then flashed with hints of silver and gold. The hull was smooth except for deep gouges and scorch marks that spoke of some terrible damage inflicted far from this frozen wasteland. Dr. Sarah Williams, the expedition's lead scientist, approached Marcus with her tablet computer held in gloved hands. Her face was flushed with excitement despite the brutal cold. She had been the first to identify the anomaly. Through satellite imaging, convinced it was more than just an unusual geological formation. Now her theories were proving correct in ways that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. "The metal is regenerating," she said, her voice crackling through the communication system built into their helmets. "Every scan we take shows different molecular structures. It's adapting to our analysis methods, almost like it's trying to hide what it really is." She pulled up a series of images on her screen, showing the progression of their scans over the past 6 hours. Each one revealed something new and impossible. Marcus knelt at the edge of the pit where workers had cleared away centuries of accumulated ice. He removed one glove, despite the dangerous cold, and placed his bare hand against the alien surface. The metal was cold, yes, but not as cold as the surrounding ice. There was warmth beneath, faint, but unmistakable. More than that, there was a vibration, a rhythmic pulse that felt almost like a heartbeat. "It's alive," Marcus whispered, though he knew that wasn't quite accurate. The ship wasn't biological in the traditional sense, but it possessed something that transcended mere machinery. It was aware, conscious in a way that human technology could never achieve. The recovery operation took another 12 hours. Massive cranes and industrial heating equipment worked in concert to free the vessel from its frozen prison. When it finally broke loose, the sound was like a mountain groaning in its sleep. Every piece of electronic equipment within 100 meters flickered and died for precisely 3 seconds. When power returned, the ship was free, suspended in the grip of heavy cables, hovering above the pit that had been its tomb. General Richard Moss oversaw the transport convoy personally. He was a career military officer who had seen combat on 4 continents and commanded operations in the most hostile environments on Earth. Yet nothing in his extensive experience had prepared him for this moment. The alien ship was loaded onto a specially designed transport vehicle, a massive flatbed truck reinforced to carry tanks and heavy artillery. Even so, the vehicle suspension groaned under the weight of the crystalline hull. "Get it to Facility 7, General Moss commanded, his voice carrying the absolute authority of decades in command. "I want every scientist we have cleared for this project on site within 24 hours, and someone find out what the hell this thing is before the other superpowers start asking questions we can't answer." The convoy moved slowly across the frozen landscape. A line of military vehicles surrounding the transport truck like protective guard dogs. Marcus rode in the lead vehicle, unable to take his eyes off the ship behind them. Through the reinforced window, He could see frost forming and melting on the hull in patterns that almost looked deliberate. Symbols appeared in the ice crystals, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could properly perceive. Facility 7 was built into the side of a mountain range, hidden from satellite observation and protected by layers of security that would make a paranoid dictator envious. The installation had been constructed during the Cold War as a backup command center in case of nuclear attack. Now it served as humanity's premier location for studying objects and phenomena that defied conventional understanding. The ship was lowered into a massive hangar bag carved from solid rock. The space was large enough to house multiple aircraft with walls reinforced by steel and concrete 3M thick. Scientists and military personnel crowded the observation platforms, staring down at the alien vessel with a mixture of fear and fascination. Dr. Williams immediately began coordinating analysis teams. She set up scanning equipment, spectrometers, and experimental sensors that had never been tested outside of laboratory conditions. Every instrument was aimed at the ship, trying to pierce its secrets. The results were frustrating and fascinating in equal measure. The ship's hull resisted deep scans, reflecting or absorbing energy in ways that made no scientific sense. X-rays bounced back. Distorted electromagnetic pulses simply vanished into the crystalline surface. "It's like trying to scan water with a net," Dr. Williams complained after the third failed attempt. "Every time we think we understand the material properties, they change. The molecular structure is unstable, or rather it's too stable. It exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously." Marcus spent those first days simply observing. While others tried to force understanding through instruments and equations, he watched how the ship behaved. He noticed that the color shifts in the hull followed a pattern, repeating every 7 hours and 13 minutes. The vibrations he had felt in the ice grew stronger at certain times of day, weakening at others. Most importantly, he saw that the ship responded to proximity. When people approached with aggressive intent, planning to cut or drill into the hole, the surface grew darker and colder. When someone approached with curiosity and gentleness, faint lights flickered in the depths of the crystalline structure. On the 4th day, Marcus was alone in the hangar during the night shift. Most personnel had retired to their quarters, exhausted from days of fruitless investigation. He approached the ship slowly, speaking softly, as if addressing a frightened animal. He told it about Earth, about humanity's dreams of reaching the stars, about the loneliness of being the only conscious species in a seemingly empty universe. The ship responded. Lights bloomed beneath its surface, spreading like roots through crystal soil. The hangar filled with a soft humming that Marcus felt in his chest rather than heard with his ears. His personal tablet computer sitting nearby on a equipment cart suddenly activated, the screen filled with symbols. Alien mathematics that somehow made perfect sense to his engineer's mind. The message was simple and desperate. 14 lives in danger, systems failing, need repair, need help. Need, please help. Marcus's hands shook as he realized the truth. This wasn't just a ship. It was a lifeboat, a rescue vessel carrying survivors of some cosmic catastrophe. Inside the crystalline hull reserved in technology humanity couldn't begin to understand were living beings, aliens, real extraterrestrial intelligence, and they were dying because their damaged ship couldn't maintain the systems keeping them alive. He ran from the hangar, his footsteps echoing off stone walls, shouting for Dr. Williams and General Moss. The implications were staggering. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and that life was depending on human compassion and ingenuity for survival. As alarms began to sound and personnel rushed to their stations, Marcus made a silent promise to the ship and its hidden passengers. He would find a way to save them. No matter what it took, the real work was about to begin. *, the human touch. The emergency meeting convened in Facility 7's command center. Within the hour, General Moss stood at the head of the briefing table, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of multiple display screens showing real-time data from the alien vessel. Dr. Williams presented her findings with barely contained excitement, while Marcus remained quiet, his mind already racing through possible solutions to an impossible problem. The scans confirm Marcus's interpretation, Dr. Williams explained, manipulating a three-dimensional holographic display that rotated above the table. There are definitely life forms inside the vessel, 14 distinct biosignatures. They're in some kind of suspended animation, but the system maintaining them is failing. We estimate they have maybe 72 hours before the stasis fields collapse completely. General Moss leaned forward, his hands flat on the table's polished surface. His expression was unreadable, the face of a man who had made difficult decisions his entire career. Can we extract them? Cut through the hull and pull them out manually? Absolutely not, Marcus interrupted, speaking for the first time since the meeting began. The ship's hull isn't just armor. It's part of the life support system. The entire vessel is integrated organic technology that functions as a unified whole. If we cut into it, we'll kill them faster than the current system failure will. Colonel Rebecca Hart, the facility security chief, crossed her arms skeptically. She was younger than Moss, but equally hardened by years of military service. So, we're supposed to just watch them die. Maybe we should be focusing on what we can learn from the wreckage rather than playing Alien Rescue Squad. Marcus felt anger flash hot in his chest. Bees are living, thinking beings. They came here, whether by accident or design, and now they're trapped and dying. If we let them die when we could save them, what does that say about humanity? It says we're practical, Hart shot back. We have no idea what these aliens are capable of. They could be hostile. This could be a Trojan horse designed to get us to. Open it up so they can attack. Dr. Williams shook her head vigorously. All evidence suggests this is a genuine distress situation. The ship's energy signature matches what we'd expect from a damaged vessel trying to conserve power. There's no indication of weapon systems or aggressive technology. General Loss raised his hand, silencing the debate. Chun, you seem to have established some kind of rapport with this thing. What do you recommend? Marcus took a deep breath, organizing thoughts that had been forming since his encounter with the ship the previous night. The ship communicates through a form of technology that interfaces with neural patterns. It's been trying to talk to us since we found it, but our equipment is too crude to pick up the signals. Last night, it connected with me directly, probably because I approached it without analytical instruments creating interference. He pulled out his tablet and displayed the alien symbols that had appeared on his screen. This is their mathematics, their engineering language. I've been studying it all night, and I think I understand the basics. The ship isn't mechanical in the way we understand machinery. It's based on crystalline matrices that channel energy through quantum-entangled pathways. The damage it sustained disrupted those pathways like cutting nerves in a living body. Can you repair it? Moss asked bluntly. Maybe, Marcus admitted, but not with conventional tools. The ship responds to bioelectric fields, the natural electrical impulses that living things produce. That's why it reacted to me when I touched it. Human neural activity seems compatible with its control systems, almost like we were meant to interact with it. Dr. Williams was already nodding, her scientific mind leaping ahead to implications. You're proposing to use yourself as a living interface. Use your own bioelectric field to channel energy into the damaged systems and guide the repair process. It's insane, Colonel Hart declared. We have no idea what that kind of connection could do to a human nervous system. You could end up brain dead or worse. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I'm willing to take that risk. Those beings in there are somebody's family, somebody's friends. They deserve a chance, and I'm the only one who can give it to them. The room fell silent as General Moss considered the options. Finally, He nodded once decisively. Do it. But I want medical teams standing by, and if anything goes wrong, we shut it down immediately. Dr. Williams, you'll coordinate the scientific aspects. Hart, prepare containment protocols in case the aliens turn out to be hostile when they wake up. Chun, you have my authorization to proceed. And God help us all if this goes sideways. The next 18 hours were the most intense of Marcus's life. Dr. Williams and her team set up monitoring equipment around the ship, carefully positioned to observe without interfering with the delicate connection process. Medical technicians attached sensors to Marcus's body, tracking his heart rate, brain activity, and dozens of other biological markers. He stood before the alien vessel in a specially designed suit that would allow his bioelectric field to flow freely while protecting his body from the extreme cold that still radiated from the damaged sections of the hull. Doc Marcus placed both hands on the crystalline surface and closed his eyes. At first, there was nothing but the cold metal beneath his palms. Then gradually he felt something else. It was like hearing a whisper in a language he had never learned, but somehow understood. The ship was afraid, desperate, clinging to the last remnants of power as it tried to keep its passengers alive. He opened his mind to the connection, letting his consciousness merge with the alien intelligence that permeated the vessel. Information flooded into his awareness, not as words or images, but as pure understanding. He saw the ship's history, felt its purpose. It was a rescue craft, designed to retrieve survivors from dangerous situations across vast distances of space. The beings inside were Vidians, a peaceful species of explorers and scientists who had been studying a cosmic phenomenon when their research station was hit by a massive burst of radiation. The rescue ship had managed to retrieve 14 survivors and placed them in emergency. Stasis before its own systems were overwhelmed by the radiation damage. It had been drifting through space for decades, its AI consciousness desperately trying to find help. When Earth's gravity had finally pulled it down into the Antarctic ice, Dot Marcus felt tears streaming down his face as he experienced the ship's loneliness and determination. It had traveled so far, endured so much, all to save the lives entrusted to its care. Now, at the moment of final hope, it was failing. Not anymore, Marcus whispered aloud. I'm here now. We'll save them together. He began to work, guiding his bioelectric energy through the pathways the ship showed him. It was like learning to use muscles he had never known existed. He channeled power to damaged sections. His own neural patterns, serving as templates for the ship to follow as it repaired quantum connections that had been severed. The crystalline matrices responded, growing and healing like living tissue. Asterisk hours passed. Medical alarms sounded repeatedly as Marcus's vital signs fluctuated wildly, but he refused to stop. Dr. Williams watched the monitors with growing concern, seeing brain activity patterns that shouldn't be possible in human physiology. Colonel Hart kept her hand near the emergency shutdown controls, ready to sever the connection if Marcus's life appeared to be in danger. But Marcus was beyond their reach now, lost in communion with an intelligence that transcended the boundaries between organic and technological life. He felt the ship's gratitude, its wonder at finding beings who would help without demanding anything in return. Through the connection, he glimpsed the Vidian civilization, a culture built on cooperation and the pursuit of knowledge. People who had reached for the stars not to conquer but to understand. Finally, after what felt like both moments and eternities, Marcus felt the ship's system stabilize. Power flowed smoothly through repaired pathways. The stasis chambers began to function properly again, no longer draining the last reserves of energy, but operating as they were designed to. The 14 Vidian lives were safe, secured in perfect suspension until their people could be contacted and arrangements made for their recovery. Marcus withdrew from the connection slowly, carefully, separating his consciousness from the ship's vast intelligence. When he opened his eyes, he staggered backward, caught by medical personnel who had rushed forward. His vision swam, and every nerve in his body felt like it was on fire. But he was smiling. Asterisked. "It's done," he managed to say before exhaustion claimed him, and he slipped into unconsciousness. He woke 3 days later in the facility's medical bay. Dr. Williams was there along with General Moss. They told him that the ship had stabilized completely and had even begun repairing its exterior damage using resources it somehow extracted from the surrounding air. More importantly, it had sent out a distress beacon using frequencies humanity had never detected before. The Vidians were coming to retrieve their people, and they were bringing gifts of knowledge and friendship in gratitude for humanity's compassion. Marcus sat up slowly, his body still weak, but his mind clearer than it had ever been. "Are the passengers safe?" he asked, the only question that mattered to him. "All 14 life signs are stable and strengthening," Dr. Williams confirmed, her eyes shining with emotion. "Marcus, you did it. You saved them. And in doing so, you've given humanity something incredible. First contact, not as conquerors or victims, but as rescuers, as friends." General Moss stepped forward, his stern expression softening into something that might have been pride. "The Vidians sent a message, through the ship systems. They're calling you Keeper of Life, a title of great honor in their culture. When they arrive, they want to meet you personally and establish formal relations with Earth. You've changed everything, Chun." Marcus looked out the medical bay window toward where he knew the alien ship rested in its hangar. He could still feel an echo of the connection, a faint awareness of the ship's gratitude and the peaceful dreams of the sleeping Vidians. Humanity had reached a crossroads, and somehow, against all odds, they had chosen the path of compassion over fear. "I just did what anyone should do," Marcus said quietly. "I helped someone who needed it." But as he watched stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky beyond the reinforced windows, he knew that simple act of human kindness would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The Vidians would tell their story, and other species would hear about the strange beings from a small blue world who had saved lives at great risk to themselves, expecting nothing in return. Humanity had announced itself to the cosmos, not with weapons or threats, but with open hands and willing hearts, and the universe, vast and ancient and full of wonders, had noticed. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun.